Hi, everyone. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. There will be a little more of that later. My name is Steve Z, and I am obviously a tap dancer. I'm a candidate for President of the United States. Thank you very much. Thank you. But I am here to speak to you today in my capacity as a university lecturer who discusses the history of tap dancing. Now, I tell my students on the very first day of class that the history of tap dancing is just the history of the United States of America with the words tap dancing thrown in. And I remind them that they need to remember all of those words they learned in high school, words that we use to keep track of American history, words like slavery, immigration, urbanization, segregation, civil rights, feminism. These are the words that we use to tell the story of tap dancing. That's when they look at me. They look at me and you can see it in their eyes. Oh, Steve, really? Because, quite frankly, I didn't pay much attention in high school. And I was hoping for an easy A, and I don't think it's going to work out for me. I must confess also that I cannot cover 3 continents and 200 plus years of American history in 10 minutes. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit a few transformative figures, a few moments and ideas that are emblematic of the larger story of tap dancing. If you want the full deal with all the details, you can enroll in my class. I hope you paid attention in high school. Okay, we're going to talk about minstrel shows. We're going to talk about Bill Robinson's significance as a force for social change in America. And then we're going to talk about some pop culture contributions from Charlie Atkins, from Fred Astaire, and from Gene Kelly. Okay, so to begin, in a very simplistic definition, here's why we get tap dancing in the United States of America. We get a bunch of people here from Africa who have their way of dancing and playing music. We also get a group of people here from Europe, especially Ireland, and they have their way of dancing and playing music. When these two groups start to, observe each other, and they start to borrow some things, they start to absorb some of what the other group is doing, and they start to blend culturally, we get this American hybrid tap dancing. It's invented right here, or evolves is probably a better word, right here in the United States. Let's talk about minstrel shows. A minstrel show is basically when a bunch of white guys paint their faces black and they go on stage, they do a variety show. Tap dancing is important in a minstrel show. And please watch my hands when I say this. They're on stage imitating plantation slaves, the way they sing and dance and talk. This is wildly racist. But it existed, and it was very popular in the United States. Everyone would have seen a minstrel show. Probably the most significant early minstrel performer, we're talking pre-Civil War now, was a guy named Daddy Rice. Remember a minute ago when I told you that the history of tap dancing was just the history of the United States? Okay. What if I told you that Daddy Rice invented a recurring character for himself, a character he often played on stage? The character was that of a plantation slave who sang and tap danced. What if I told you that this character was famous in the United States? And what if I told you that Daddy Rice named that character Jim Crow? It would appear that a white tap dancer working in the minstrel genre inadvertently created the name that we use for the unjust, unfair laws of segregation in the United States. Let's stay in the minstrel period for a minute. In the 1800s, plantation slaves created a dance to mock plantation owners. And in this dance, they would sort of strut around. They would, to show like a pompous demeanor or what have you. Now, when the plantation owners saw that dance, not knowing why it was there in front of them, their reaction was, "This is fabulous. I want to do it too." And they started doing it. And pretty soon everyone was doing it. And a craze set off across the United States. Everyone wanted to do the cakewalk. And the story goes that when there was a cakewalk contest, the winner of the cakewalk contest would receive a cake, thereby creating all of the expressions that we have in our country that have to do with cake. Hey, was that easy? Cakewalk, piece of cake, that really takes the cake. Let's skip ahead to modern America, okay? Do you remember that Warner Brothers cartoon Frog? And he's got a top hat, and he's got a cane, and he goes, "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling, hello," right? I doubt the animators of that little cartoon character really knew what they were referencing when they created that. Here is a cartoon frog portraying a minstrel performer doing the dance that plantation slaves created to mock plantation owners. Well, that's deep. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about Bill Robinson. Most of you may be aware of Bill Robinson as the dapper, elderly black gentleman that danced with Shirley Temple in so many movies. Bill Robinson is incredibly significant as a tap dancer and as an American for many, many reasons. For our purposes today, let me just talk about one. Bill Robinson was a force for social change in the United States. Born in the 1800s, he was born early enough that he began his career as a minstrel performer. And of course, he went on to be a vaudeville star and a nightclub star and a Broadway star and a Hollywood star. And every step along the way, Bill Robinson fought segregation and prejudice. And when a racial barrier was placed in front of him, he often decimated it. In vaudeville, there was a rule. It was called the two-colored rule. And it clearly stipulated that no black performer could perform as a solo. It was Bill Robinson that broke that rule. Eventually, he found himself in Hollywood, where he was offered the standard roles, butler, chauffeur, servant. And he struggled against that. But then here he comes, out on screen, tap dancing with Shirley Temple. It was scandalous in its day. A black man, a white girl, holding hands. America's first celebrity interracial couple, if you will. Holding hands, working in perfect harmony, adoring each other, both on and off the screen. It cannot be denied. Bill Robinson attacks social convention and erodes racial barriers in the United States. There are other tap dancers as well that are a part of that story, but he's a great window into that discussion. Okay, so I don't have a whole lot of time left. Let me shift quickly to pure pop culture transformation. Let's leave what is historical and political and racial and talk about pop culture. In the 1950s, tap dancing went into a period of decline in the United States. And a guy named Charlie Atkins of the famous tap dance team, Coles and Atkins, he went to Motown. He became the guy at Motown Records that staged the acts. It was his job to take these talented, young, inexperienced performers and make them slick and ready for prime time. It's Charlie Atkins, the tap dancer, that thought of all that stuff that the Pips do behind Gladys Knight, That's all Charlie Atkins, a tap dancer. He staged Diana Ross and the Supremes and every other major Motown act. So now, when you see Madonna in concert or Lady Gaga in concert or whoever you may see, and behind them there are 40 dancers dancing in perfect synchronization as part of the show, this is the logical evolution of what Charlie Atkins began in Motown in the 1950s. Fred Astaire. Okay, Fred Astaire is one of the most significant artists in the history of the United States of America. I could do a month on Fred Astaire, but for today, one thing. Fred Astaire inspired the great composers of his day to write music for him to introduce to the American public. Berlin, Gershwin, Cole Porter, all of the great composers, they were inspired by Fred Astaire, and they wrote songs expressly for him to introduce to the public. And I mean dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens of songs that were to become jazz standards and vocal standards. What would our American songbook look like if Fred Astaire had not been there to inspire the creating of so much of that music? And lastly, Gene Kelly. Most tap dancers would tell you that Gene Kelly was not the best tap dancer in the universe. But to say that sentence and then leave it there is to completely misunderstand Gene Kelly's significance in the world. Gene Kelly is, of course, a dancer and a movie star and an actor and a singer and all of that, but he's also a producer, a director, and he often collaborated on the writing of the script. Gene Kelly is a filmmaker. He's Steven Spielberg. He's Quentin Tarantino. He's Spike Lee. He's Clint Eastwood. And he pushed the boundaries of film. He decided he wanted to dance with an animated character in one film, Anchors Away, if you know it. And the studio said, it can't be done. A phone call to Disney Studios confirmed that it could not be done. Kelly wanted it done, and it got done. And that's just one of many instances of him being intimately involved with the creating of special effects. One more thing about Kelly. Can you picture the end of An American in Paris, if you know that movie? Can you picture that ballet? It's a very high concept. The colors are very interesting. The camera angles, the editing. Think of that. And then look me in the eyes and tell me that Gene Kelly is not the father of music video. So you see, tap dancers have always been there, Tap dancers have been there transforming America from a point of view of what is socially acceptable or not. And tap dancers, of course, have shaped and also reflected our pop culture. So I have gone over, but let me give you 30 seconds of some tap dancing and then I'll get out of here, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.